you know how it is. I mean, it's like that runner's euphoria where sometimes you've seen other people when they have it, it's like it rubs off on you, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, like it's almost like it's contagious. People always say it, but it's almost like if you know, you know. If you're a runner, you know. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You know, you know.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Spoken Soul Podcast, home of the Essential Athlete. I'm Terrance, here with Anthony, and today I just wanted to dive a little deeper into what I mean when I use that term, essential athlete. So, Ant, I don't know if you remember this, but it was probably about a year or two. My oldest daughter ran her first half marathon, and she's a nurse out there, and she's at Lehigh now, but I think she was at Beth Israel for a while. But the fact, what really marveled me about her deciding to do a half marathon was her actually finding a time with her busy schedule to actually fit the time in to actually train, so she would put herself in a position to be able to actually accomplish that. And I started to think about not just, nurses, but all these people in all these different professions, trades, whatever you want to call it, who work these crazy shifts, all these different hours. I mean, you're talking, for the most part, a lot of guys are out there, a lot of ladies are doing 50 hours a week, but they still find the time to put themselves in a position to actually perform. And so I think of those people as the individuals who make it possible to keep the world running, our infrastructure, whether you want to call it, whether it's nurses, whether it's firefighters, whether it's, carpenters, plumbers, policemen, a lot of people in the trades, a lot of people in professions that make sure that the things that we need as a society, they're in the position to provide those services to us. But at the same time, they get their hustle on. That's where that term essential athlete for me comes from. And that's what I started thinking about when I came up with that. So before I move on, any thoughts?
I think that's, you said it perfectly. People who are working, firefighters, sometimes they're working 4 days on, 2 days off, and again, in between it, it's funny because you say that because there's a fire station over near where where I live, where I run, and sometimes I'll see like the firemen out there, still, trying to exercise and stay in shape, which is admirable because most times we see like the policemen who got the big stomach and they're eating the donuts, and we think about that piece, but we never think about the other opposite side of it. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah, and if you think, so let me ask you this question. Do you consider yourself an essential athlete?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad you actually answered that rather quickly because, as what I've noticed is this. As I've gotten maturer, I use mature because, I age like a fine wine. I have found myself in those situations where I have to be able to find time to get whatever training in that I need to get in so I can perform the way that I'd like to actually perform, right? So it's really about being, man, damn, Jax. Ooh. Oh, God.
He hit you again.
Yeah, he hit me again. Oh, man.
And he ran off.
Oh, man, that stinks. I found myself in situations where I really have to find time to train, whether it be for running or cycling, although,
Yep.
the running piece is going to be going by the wayside for a little bit. But even strength training and things like that. And so what I'm trying to what I'm understanding now, and this is something that I'm beginning to apply, is I have to start to think about things a little different.
Yes.
And so when I start speaking about that term essential athlete, there are two mindsets that I have started to adopt, and I think it works well for individuals who are in those professions, in those trades, to put me in a position where I can do what I need to do and get what I need to get out of it.
Yep.
And the first one of those things is an always on mindset.
Mm.
When I talk about that always on mindset, I can't put myself in a position where, from a training perspective, I'm training and then I'm not.
Yeah.
From a mentality perspective, I have to look at every opportunity as an opportunity to fit something in.
I agree, and I'm gonna jump in on that, and I'm just gonna say, to me, that's like the Kobe mentality, the Mamba mentality, exactly what the always on, like everything leads to something else, whether it's even when you're not working out, if you're planning in your mind about when that next one is gonna come, that's your always on mentality, and that everything that you're doing is going to lead to something else and where that particular goal is. And honestly, I learned that I had to learn that a long time ago. I actually had to adopt that, and that's why I love triathlon so much, because you had to always be on to try to juggle three
phases,
different sports, and what each one of them entailed for you to do. So I love that always on mentality where, because it helps to keep you focused, to where you're not, because I think sometimes it's like, oh, I only work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then Tuesday and Thursday, everything you're doing is throwing off what you did on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you're not really always on. You're not always in tuned. And that's important. Because if not, and again, you're gonna make strides, and you're gonna have some things where you back up. But if you have the always on mentality, it's like it's about what that goal is and what those little steps are to get you to the end, and not just, okay, I'm going to do this here. It's almost like it's not pretend and it's not temporary. It's like, okay, I got to get to that goal.
Yeah.
And how many steps I have to take to get there. And if your mind isn't always into it, then it's almost like it's like a part-time venture. It's not something that you're fully engaged in.
Yeah, and excuse me. And it's easy to say, okay, well, you got to have that always on mindset. It's another thing to actually put that into practice. And this is something that we'll get into in the future. But I've gone ahead and created some playbooks that work with that mindset. And then the next one that I'm going to actually mention in a second. But those playbooks they're available up on the actual website, and I'll leave the link to that below in the description. But it basically is playbooks based on whether you're running or cycling that put you in a position based on how much time you actually have to actually stay ready.
Yep. You're right.
That's the thing. And if you think about it, I want to go back. I stuttered. You see that? I want the knife. If you go back to that year where we ran probably 12 half marathons in like a 4-month period, 4 or 5 month period, right? That was a situation where we weren't thinking about it, but we were always ready.
We will be on ready. Like we could get up and just go.
And part of that was because, again, it was a situation where we didn't have to have a real heavy set training regimen because
Plans.
after
Yep.
preparing for the first one,
Yep.
it was just staying ready
Yep.
for
Planned.
the rest of them.
Yep.
And that leads to the second mindset that I had to adopt when I started thinking about, okay, well, how can I take this essential athlete piece and really apply it to myself? And you utilize this, and I'm not sure if you, when I say it, you might not be using this term, but I had to take the approach that I have to use the minimum effective dose
Yes.
for me to get the performance that I need. Because it's not always about, okay, well, I got to do 3 hours on the actual bike, right? It's about how much effort do I need to put in so I can get the maximum efficiency based on the amount of time
I'm
that I
surprised you
actually
even.
had.
I appreciate that, man. I'm
Yeah.
surprised you. Listen,
What?
I have been. Listen, that has been. And when people talk to me about that, I tell them they're like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "Listen, it's a double dose of what you said. It's about that always on mentality. My mind is always on. About my hustle is always on. I know, like throughout the week, you know, Sunday, well, Monday through Sunday, I know like there's certain things I have to do, and I had to realize I learned that from triathlete that you can't you got to always be on when you're mind, but your workouts don't have to always be on to a maximum. So for me, and that's how I think that's how we all to some degree have been able to have a good longevity of where we are.
Yeah.
I credit it to that. So for me, I always tell people like I mean I know you say at 55, um, I still get good hustles on, but I know that, like you said, I know, like, for example, yesterday, that hustle, like, with being, and what your plans, everything is always on, but everything is structured and intentional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always know the next workout, what's the goal for that workout? Yesterday's goal was, and by the way, I don't know if we're talking about it in this episode, I signed up for another race. So in my mind, I have a goal where I want to be. So my training has to be structured to get there and to also be respectful of the fact that I haven't ran a race in 8 years, no matter wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
Because training and racing are two totally different things.
Yeah.
No matter how you want to look at it. And it's like respect the game. So, for example, but again, my always on mentality. Yesterday's workout was like a 45-minute workout. But I knew, okay, and again, being honest with yourself too
Mm-hmm.
and understanding like what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are and being able to say, okay, I'm gonna work on those weaknesses. And again, so yesterday's workout was, and again, and I shouldn't say it because I know T's gonna use it against me at some point. But
Don't tell me what I'm gonna do.
he knows. I'm gonna say you're gonna be like, okay, once I say it. Like I know for a fact that I probably underperform because I like being comfortable with things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll probably only get uncomfortable when it's like either somebody pisses me off or somebody's pushing me. Outside of that, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Unless it's like the last 15 minutes of the
Yeah.
race. Then
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta get on. So yesterday was I know I haven't ran in a long time, and I know I've been stuck ish with I probably haven't really been pushing myself for a variety of different reasons, not just because I'm lazy, but I've had other circumstances, but that I've been trying to build back. So for example, yesterday it was going to be a 4 mile workout. I knew, and I haven't done speed work in a long time.
Yep.
So before all that, and again, when you talk about being focused and zoned in, I said, okay, I'm gonna do a 4 mile workout. Two of those are going to be, one's going to be a warm up to get to the track. You get to the track, and then I went old school like we did back in the day for high school. I did quarter-mile repeats, at probably 85%. So I would walk one, run one, walk
Yep.
one, run one. And then after that, I went back home. That was the cool down to get back home. And I say that because, again, it wasn't what we used to do. We would get out and run for 2 hours. It was probably 46 minutes. but you can get a really nice workout in, boom, 30, 45 minutes, and they give you exactly what you need. You're not overburdening your body, and then you're mentally, filling up that gas tank. So that would be, and I love it. I love
Yeah.
it because a lot of times, and I mean, we all have jobs, we have careers, we have families, we have other outside things, and I tell people, I honestly, you know, and I'll end on this note. Hell, my swims, it takes me longer to get to the gym to drive back and forth than some of my swims. But I also understand it's about that mentality of what you're pouring into it that says that, you know what, I'm committed to this. Like I'm committed to this and I'm committed to it and I'm committed to taking the smaller steps, so that I can get to that bigger goal.
Yeah, and the thing with that is it's about being ruthlessly efficient,
Yep.
right? And you mentioned this earlier. That term essential is essential for a couple of reasons.
Yep.
One, I have this whole, concept behind, there are particular people who make sure that the world keeps turning,
Yep.
our infrastructure keeps running, and those people are essential,
Yep.
right? But at the same time, what they're doing for themselves from a health benefit, the
Yes.
commitment that they're making, that's essential to keep you in
Mhm.
shape from a health perspective, from a mental perspective. All that stuff is actually necessary. So it's really about committing to yourself. It's really about committing to whether you're a nurse, whether you're a doctor, whatever your profession is, committing to taking on the role of providing those services, and then committing to the hustle. I mean, you mentioned this. Life is busy.
Busy.
You're balancing work, a career, you're balancing family,
Your hobbies.
you're balancing all those other things, and now you choose to. And I'm gonna pick on. I'm going to go with running and cycling because right now that's
Yep.
where mine is. You choose to pull up to one of these endurance sports
Yep.
and continue to put the actual effort in. And so when I started thinking about all that, and I'm gonna go to the playbooks for a second, but again, I'll save that for another episode. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to make sure that there were some things that would allow you to take that
Yep.
ruthlessness
Yep.
and be very efficient while you're on the job. And so there are things that focus on things that you can do from a leg perspective. It goes anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes.
Yep.
There's a recovery aspect in some of those things at 0 minutes, right? So there's a whole slew. There's 4 protocols in total, and I'll be adding some more at some point. But it goes through those different areas. So regardless of whether or not you're on a job site, whether or not you're in a hospital, whether or not you stepped outside, there's something for everyone in there. And so that is really it's a focus on a part of the community that is close to all of us from the aspect of when I think sometimes when people hear the term essential, they really tie it to just the medical profession, fire, police, but that's not the reality. The reality is, anyone,
Electricians,
electricians.
plumbers, like if you listen, and listen, I'm gonna even take it to the point where I might even say the Verizon people are essential
You
because
say you need your internet?
I need my internet, I need my Wi-Fi. But I understand what you're saying about the people who who make the world go round. And that could extend to a plethora of different occupations, but I think it's just people who make the world go round. And I think what you said is important. And I think the most important thing and aspect of what they're doing is that they're making a commitment to themselves. And I always tell people, you know, my hustle is non-negotiable. And it's non-negotiable because if I'm not physically right and I'm not mentally right, I can't contribute to anything.
Yeah.
And I feel that way for the essential athletes too. I mean, I've never been a policeman or a fireman or a nurse, but I can't imagine the mental strain it must be for the things that they have to see every day.
Yeah.
And to have to work sometimes, 12, 13-hour shifts, in a stressful environment. I mean, hell, the most stressful thing I do all day is if my coffee gets warm, so,
Yeah,
or
he
cold, I'm
said,
sorry. So,
if my coffee gets warm. Oh man. Oh, and speaking of essential, shout out to my godson Evan Young. He just graduated. He's going to be a cardiac nurse out there in Dartmouth, I think, New Hampshire. And shout out to Lexi. Congratulations on your completing your first half marathon. Now you got to do another one.
congratulations to you both.
Yeah, man. And so behind every one of these episodes, I make it a point. Well, at the start of all these episodes, I make it a point to say "Home of the Essential Athlete" because uh, that is one of the areas of focus in the community that I have chosen to actually, gravitate towards. And again, everyone's part of the actual community. Yeah. That piece, I just wanted to make sure that I do a little extra to make sure that we understand that the work that you put in, whether it's on the job or off the job, is recognizable, and we appreciate that. With that being said, that is the definition behind the Essential Athlete. The Essential Athlete is always a sponsor of this show. If you like to hear more about the Essential Athlete, there'll be some links down in the description. We have a whole website dedicated to the playbooks and things like that. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you can be kept up to date on all these episodes that we release. And with that, we'll see you on the road.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend.